today's topic, we are going to discuss Chapter 8 of Theories of Personality, the Sullivan Interpersonal Theory. Your emotional life is not written in a cement during childhood. You write each chapter as you go along. Harry Stack Sullivan. Personality. So the interpersonal theory views personality as energy system that can either exist as tension or energy transformation. Tension. It is a potentiality for action that may or may not be in awareness, like anxiety, premonition, drowsiness, hunger, sexual excitement. For example, you are hungry. So what will you do? Of course you eat. You find a way to satisfy your hunger. With that, there is a tension building inside of you. We have two types of tension. Number 1, needs. Needs are tensions brought by biological imbalance between the person and the environment. Needs are episodic. Once they are satisfied, they lose their power, but after some time, they are likely to reoccur. Needs have biological components and stem from interpersonal relation. Two kinds of needs, the zonal needs and the general needs. Zonal needs arises from specific body parts, like mouth, hands, anus, and genitals, while general needs is concerned with the overall well-being of a person, need for food, water, and oxygen. And tenderness is an example of a basic general interpersonal need. An infant's need to receive tenderness may be expressed as a cry, smile, or coo, whereas the mother's need to give tenderness may be transformed into touching, fondling, or holding. In this example, the need for tenderness is satisfied through the use of infant's mouth and mother's hand. Also note that both zonal and general needs uses several parts of the body to satisfy them. Like the mouth satisfies general needs by taking in food and oxygen, but it also satisfies the zonal need for oral activity. Number 2, anxiety. Anxiety differs from tensions of needs in that it is disjunctive, is more diffuse and vague, and forth no action for its relief. Example, infants' need for lack of food. Their action is clear. They either cry, but if they are anxious, they can do little to escape from that anxiety. Transferred through empathy. Because all mothers have some amount of anxiety while caring for their babies, and because of that, all infants will become anxious to some degree as well. Disruptive force in blocking the development of healthy interpersonal relation. Prevent people from learning mistakes. Persisting pursuance for childish wish for security. Ensures people will not learn from experience. Its presence is worse than its absence. Experiencing anxiety is like a blow in the head. It makes people incapable of learning. It impairs our memory. It narrows our perception and may result in complete amnesia later in our life. Energy transformation. Tensions transferred into actions, either overt or covert action. Behaviors that satisfy our needs and reduce anxiety. May be observable or hidden from other people, like emotions and thoughts. Simply means that energy transformation are the actions that we do to satisfy our needs and reduce our anxiety.
Our interpersonal relationships or relations shape our behavior. Without other people, human would have not personality according to this theory. I am going to tackle about dynamisms. According to Sullivan, energy transformations become organized as typical behavior patterns that characterized a person throughout a lifetime. He also called these behavior patterns as dynamism, a term that means about the same as traits or habit patterns. Dynamisms are two major classes. First, those related to specific zones of the body that includes the mouth, anus, and the genital. And the second one, those related to tensions. This second class is composed of three categories: the disjunctive, the isolating, and the conjunctive. The disjunctive dynamisms include those destructive patterns of behavior that are related to the concept of malevolence. And the isolating dynamisms include those behavior patterns such as lust that are unrelated to the personal relations. And conjunctive dynamisms include beneficial behavior patterns such as intimacy and self-system. Now, let's unlock the term malevolence and comprehend deeper about it. Malevolence is a disjunctive dynamism of evil and hatred, characterized by the feeling of living among one's enemies. It originated around the age 2 or 3 years when children's action that earlier had brought about maternal tenderness are rebuffed, ignored, or met with anxiety and pain. Some children will learn to withhold any expression of the need for tenderness and to protect themselves by adopting the malevolent attitude. Parents and peers then find it more and more difficult to react with tenderness, which in turn solidifies the child's negative attitude towards the world. Malevolent action often take the form of timidity, mischievousness, cruelty, and other form of asocial and antisocial behavior. So what is the difference between asocial and antisocial behavior? Asocial behavior refers to indifference to or a separation from society. And a social person is able to socialize well if they choose to. But if doesn't do, so often simply out of lack of interest. It's common for introverts to be asocial, while antisocial behavior is asociality to the extreme and is related to mental and personality disorders. An antisocial person lacks empathy or regard for the concerns or safety for others, and may actually be hostile towards society. Antisocial behavior is typical with sociopaths. According to Sullivan, he expressed the malevolent attitude with this colorful statement: "Once upon a time, everything was lovely, but that was before I had to deal with people." Malevolence also includes the following traits: egoism, the excessive concern with one's own pleasure or advantage at the expense of community well-being. And also, Machiavellianism. It is the manipulativeness, callous effect, and a strategic calculating orientation. It also includes the moral disengagement, a generalized cognitive orientation to the world that differentiates individuals' thinking in a way that powerfully affects unethical behavior. Also, the narcissism. The ego reinforcement is all-consuming motive. Also, the psychological entitlement. It is a stable and a pervasive sense that one deserves more and is entitled to more than others. Always remember that malevolence is a disjunctive dynamism, which means it is destructive. So what is intimacy? Intimacy grows out of the earlier need for tenderness but is more specific and involves a close interpersonal relationship between two people who are more or less of equal status. Intimacy must not be confused with sexual interest because intimacy is a dynamism that requires an equal partnership. It does not usually exist in parent child relationships unless both are adults and see one another as equals. Intimacy is an integrating dynamism that tends to draw out loving reactions from other people, thereby decreasing anxiety and loneliness. Because intimacy helps us avoid anxiety and loneliness, it is a rewarding experience that most healthy people desire. One of the example of intimacy is the physical intimacy. It is about touch and closeness between bodies. Your relationship doesn't have to be sexual or romantic to have physical intimacy. One of the example of intimacy is the experiential intimacy. It is building or spending quality time with someone and growing closer over common interest in activities. For example, there's nothing quite like the way you bond with someone over your mutual love of Game of Thrones or during the spirited game of Monopoly. It also includes the spiritual intimacy. Generally speaking, spirituality is about belief in something beyond the physical realm of existence. That belief can be a higher power in human souls or in greater purpose. For example, spiritual intimacy can look like sharing a common value like kindness, being on the same wavelength about organized religion, or feeling like you were meant to be in each other's lives. So, what are the key factors within any intimate relationship? This includes trust, in order to share personal parts of yourself, like your most embarrassing secrets or your deepest fears. You have to be able to trust them. Showing another people that you're trustworthy can help them feel closer to you too. And also acceptance. You know you've established some intimacy when you feel like a person accepts you for you truly are. When you first met someone, you might worry that they'll hear you guilty pleasures, music playlist, and they think you're weird. Also, the honesty. Honesty and intimacy feed one another. You often can't have one without the other. You feel comfortable telling your partner exactly how you feel, in part because you've become so close to each other. And in some vein, every time you open up, you can grow a bit closer. You know your partner is willing to listen, and the next time you want to share something personal. In short, intimacy means feeling safe enough to take the risk of putting yourself out there, knowing the other person cares enough not to let you down. Forgiveness and understanding can only exist with compassion between people. Compassion is a natural component of caring about one another's well being. There is a reason why good communication is often named as the key to healthy relationships. When you make an effort to listen to someone and tell them how you really feel, you can build a deep understanding for each other. And the more you understand each other, the closer you become. Intimacy usually doesn't happen in a flash, but it must be built. You won't wake up one morning and say, "We're intimate now, mission accomplished." But intimacy is more like a quality that you continue to cultivate over time. The more time you spend sharing experiences and feelings, the more elements you have to work with to build intimacy. That's understandable considering that intimacy requires you to be vulnerable and put faith on other people when there is a chance they'll let you down. If anyone has ever violated your trust, it can take a while to want to take a chance with them or anyone else again. Always remember that intimacy is a conjunctive dynamism, which that means this behavior is beneficial.
Loss is another driving dynamism of the individual. For Sullivan, Lust is a sexual gratification consists of complex urges, feelings, and interpersonal actions which have genital sexual activity as their distant or immediate goal, where it begins in early adolescence and often leads to a reduction of self-esteem. It does not also require other person for satisfaction. Those attempt loss activity are often rejected by others, which it increases anxiety and decreases the feeling of self-worth. It is a self-centered need that can be satisfied in the absence of an intimate interpersonal relationship because it only serves itself. For example, watching porn because it gives satisfaction just by watching, and it doesn't mean it can't be fulfilled because it doesn't need to be satisfied by others since it's capable of satisfying oneself. Another example is if you ask someone to have sex and that person rejected you, your anxiety increases and you begin to question your self worth. Next is self-system, the most complex and broad of all the dynamisms and crucial for personality structure. It functions as a security measure to protect the individual from anxiety and develop at about age 12 to 13 months. As children develop intelligence and foresight, they tend to learn which behavior are related to increase or decrease in anxiety, where it provides the self-system with a warning device. Warning serves as a signal and alerting people to increased anxiety and giving them opportunity to protect themselves. In order to avoid or minimize actual or potential anxiety, the person adopts various types of protective measures and supervisory controls over his behavior. The purpose of security operation is to reduce feelings of insecurity or anxiety that will result from endangered self-esteem. There are two kinds of security operations: dissociation and selective attention. First is dissociation includes all those impulses, desires, and need that a person refuses to allow into awareness. For example, daydreaming, because sometimes dissociation is also a way of coping by negative thoughts or feelings. Next is selective attention. Selective attention is a refusal to see those things that we do not wish to see. Selective attention is a type of attention which involves focusing on a specific aspect of a scene while ignoring other aspects. Example: a wife who badly needs her husband's love to maintain her sense of self-esteem will selectively ignore the evidence that he does not really care for her. All the big and little hurts that he has inflicted will magnify, for out of proportion to their real meaning, those few acts will be token that he might ended care.
Personification. What are personification? When we say personification, this refers to the images we see in ourselves and to others, or this is how we view ourselves. This begins from infancy and continue throughout various developmental stages or as we grow older. According to Sullivan, there are three basic personifications that develop during infancy. These are the bad mother, the good mother, and the me personification. And sometimes children may take on an eidetic personification. This is those that do not exist and may happen on 2 to 6 years of age. Okay, let's go through the bad mother and good mother definition. When we say the bad mother, this is similar to Klein's concept of bad breast. This is when the infant experiences with a bad nipple of the mother or to anyone who is responsible for the infant's feeding. It could be the father, the nurse, and the nursing station, no? This means that the nipple does not satisfy the hunger needs of the child. Like, for example, upon, like for example, the mother is breastfeeding, if the nipple of the mother does not produce sufficient milk for the need of infant. Or, on the other hand, if the bottle feed, when the infant experience, like for example, the flow of the milk from the bottle could be slow or too fast, probably unsatisfiable ang ma-feel sa infant because ang result ana ga-cry out raman gihapon siya because wa man niya nakuha kung unsa yang gusto, kung hinay kayo ang flow sa milk, ga-cry out siya kay hinay kaayo dili siya mabusog. If kusog na sad kaayo, may possibility nga matukan pa siya sa kapaspas. So wala siya na satisfy. And that's why the bad mother personification has developed. Okay. After bad mother personification formed, an infant will acquire a good mother personification. So, a good mother comes from the cooperative and nurturing behavior of a mother. And this is also similar to Clean's concept of good breast. Okay, so infant is being satisfied with the milk that is provided by the nipple of the mother. And down to the me personification. Under the me personification, there is also three basic concepts. These are the good me self, the bad me self, and the not me self. The good me self refers to the content of awareness when one is thoroughly satisfied with oneself, while the bad me self is the self-awareness that is organized around experiences to be avoided because they are anxiety-producing. And the not me self entails aspects of the self that are regarded as dreadful and loath. So, again, when we say the good me self personification, this consists experiences that are rewarded, or a child often siya receive og reward, which a child would sense a noticeable decrease of anxiety. So, okay, example, if mga kinder or nursery level nga child, like for example, na sila ang sa ating school, and then the child is very participative, follows the teacher, behave in class. So when the teacher acknowledge those doings of the child, the teacher may reward the child and gives the child additional confidence or self-esteem, no? So, feeling niya, maka-feel siya proud sa iyang self for what the child has or sa iyang nabuhat because natagaan man siya og reward. Okay? So, sa bad me self naman, example of this is when a child is associated with punishment or experience being punished, and the child would even get feedback from other person, ibuli pag yun. So in that way maka-acquire ni siya anxiety possibly, and could feel bad to his or herself. And on the other hand, we have the not me self. It is more on you are blocking it. So you are dissociated, no? Or imo siyang gi-separate. You're dissociated it because of the severe anxiety. Imo siyang gi-block nimo siya nga experience because para sa imo dili siya maayong experience, and then you're gonna have a thought in yourself that this isn't me, that's not me anymore, mga thought, no? Okay, so Again, when we say personification, these are images that we see within ourselves or to other. Or this could be associated to mental images nga atong makita within ourselves and to others. So, under ani niya ang three concept during infancy. Okay? We have the bad mother, the good mother, and the me personification. Let's go through the eidetic personification. Eidetic personification refers to those imaginary friends created by a child as a real playmates. This comes into conflict with personal relationship when people project traits onto others. So this is not existing friends that has been invented by a child. This is called eidetic personification. Not true, unrealistic, but invented by a child. That will be all. Thank you.